Hey, happy Tuesday. I see you all. Happy Tuesday. I can't believe it. We are in August. We are running very quickly to the end of the finish line of summer, and I am fighting. I am fighting for our summer, ladies and gentlemen. I'm fighting for it. How about you? Anyway, I'm Val The Voice Johnson. I'm back again with another episode of Talk on Tuesdays. And I got a special guest today, too. Myself, Coach Tony, will be welcoming this person. And hey, it's going to be a good time. Let's go. Edition of Talk on Tuesdays, ladies and gentlemen. I am Val The Voice Johnson, and I am here. We're celebrating 3 years of being online, doing our fun stuff that we love to do. And like I said, I'm fighting to hold on to summer. We've had a wonderful summer season, myself and Coach Tony, and then with EP Michael Womble, still traveling, doing his thing. We are here. We're excited about what's happening. And I have to, guys, go ahead and share with you all that Talk on Tuesdays, this particular episode is brought to you by one of our affiliate sponsors. If you are someone that needs a will, a trust, people don't like to talk about it. It's just weird. And also, if you have a business and you're trying to protect that as well, you need to do some trademarking. That's always important. Learn how Legal Shield can help represent you and your legal needs at a fraction of the cost. Please visit our website, linktr.ee/Pure Light Media for more information. And Mr. Springer is in the building. I'll have him go ahead and place that in the chat. I got a couple of coaching clients, guys. So if you all are interested in becoming or doing what I'm doing right now, which is podcasting, which is being informed, I like to call that, you can become a part of our Interludes Podcasting community with patreon.com/interludes. And that is what is going on for that. I want to thank Legal Shield for being our affiliate sponsor on today. And I'm just going to jump right into my weekend. Guys, we're going to be talking legacy this episode. And right here is a picture taken in 1974. I'm very secure in my age. I'm not going to tell anybody about that. But I'm very secure in my age. So the picture in the corner is me and my mom in the bathroom. And I had my good friends that I've known since I was little. His name is Tony. He was doing a crazy face. And my girl Princess, she's there with her grandbaby, Nunu. And they came with me on August 18th. August 18th would have been my mother's 87th birthday. And so my mother and I think that picture was taken when she was, I want to say, coming around the bend of the age 40, because she had me late. She had me at like 35. So I think I was like 3 or 4 years old. So she's probably like 38, 39 years old in that picture. But we went by to visit, and it's weird. It's weird. It's just, you gotta have people stand in there with you. Mr. Springer, please go ahead and put in the chat and let people know, hey, I want to see who's here before I get into it. Thank you. Thank you so very much for that. Alejandro, grace and peace, familia. Thank you so very much. And if you did something this, please let me know. I see Queen Lakeisha's in the building. Thank you so very much. I appreciate you for being here as well. Mr. Nelson, as always, I'm excited to see you as well. And thank you so very much. I got to look and see who this is on Facebook. Thank you so very much. And Mr. Springer, thank you. Thank you so very much for what you said. Yeah, so let us know what you did. Let us know what you did over the weekend, because this was, as the years go by, it gets a little bit easier, but it's still emotional for me, because my mother and I were so very close, especially when I lived in New York. So I said, well, we're going to do something throughout the entire weekend. The entire weekend is just not going to be right there. So let us know in the chat what you guys did. Uh yeah, thank you so very much. Our guest is already excited. He says this is about to be so dope. And I see Wise is in the building. Thank you, King. And hello, Interludes family. Well, what you see on the screen, I went to a block club party. That's right, a neighborhood block club party over the weekend. And who you see there is a Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston person impersonator, and then also a Michael Jackson impersonator. And then over to the side, my friends, they have the Garden of Eden in their backyard. This is their basil, but they had over 17 vegetables in their backyard. It is amazing what you can definitely do with that. Oh my gosh. So I was very happy about that. And then on Sunday, friends of mine, we went out, and there's a place called Nando's. And I had a very basic lunch, but I just love the vibe of this restaurant, which is on Randolph and I'm sorry, Washington and Randolph in the like west of the loop here in Chicago. And so it just was a very colorful place. So I was like, let me take some photos of this. So yes, I thank you so much, Mr. Springer. Yes, I love block club parties. Back in the days, block club parties were huge. And that was just the big thing of mine. But I got a chance to see I want to call it the MJ play. And this is Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson is here in Chicago, and that is the very famous play that won Tony Awards. I mean, major Tony Awards over the weekend. So let me go ahead and do the little slideshow. I have a slideshow here, I think. Yeah, I do. Of what I did with the MJ the musical. Fun situations outside of the theater. And they call it Chicago on Broadway. So many of the Broadway shows that are in New York, they make their way here to Chicago. And I was at the James Nelander Theater. Yes. And so that is right around the corner from the Goodman Theater, which is very famous here. And Kevin is hilarious. He's like, let's go, Val. VJ went to see MJ. And I have to say, they did a great, wonderful job with the play. I was just really excited with that. The young man who played MJ was Roman Banks, and I was really excited to see him. They had a couple of folks portray other roles as well. I want to also mention there was one actor named Devin Bowles, and he did Rob, which was the stage manager, and then also Joseph Jackson. They based it on Michael's time he was just about to go on tour for the Dangerous album in 1992. So it happened in a rehearsal hall in Los Angeles in 1992. Another talented actress, Chelsea Mitchell Bonsu, she was they had many people do multiple roles. So it was wonderful, and they covered, I want to say, just about every song that Michael has recorded. But I was just really pleased with how they pretty much kind of hinted and kind of put it out there that Michael was dealing with some demons. And one of the emotional numbers of the show was when the actress that portrayed Katherine Jackson, oh my gosh, she had such a beautiful voice. Anastasia Talley. Oh my goodness, she had such a beautiful voice. So she saying, "I'll be there," to Michael, and she sang it to him as a kid, and then the kid switched off, and then it was the grown Michael, portrayed by Roman Banks. And they had another they had three versions of Michael. um, One that played a younger version of Michael when he was with the Jackson Five, another version of Michael just before, as he got older, and Motown didn't know what to do with him, and they were making their deal with CBS Records, and he was doing The Wiz and the first album that he did with Quincy Jones. And then, of course, Roman Banks, was it was told in like a documentary style, but it was really nice, and I understand why. I think the show won about 2 or 3 Tony Awards last year in 2022. So I'm glad to see that this is on tour. This is on tour. So I was happy to get my playbill and have fun with it. So, guys, if you all did like a what do you call it, a play, or if you did like a block club party, or you went to a special event, let us know in the chat. We will let you know. And thank you so very much for that as well, Mr. Springer. Go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe and all of that. That's exciting. I am excited to Oh, wait, I forgot. There was some more music that came. We'll just go ahead and let that go. We have a wonderful guest on today, and I'm excited to go ahead and introduce him. We met in person. I talked about being at a power networking conference in Houston, and I was really excited about that. And so I was like, I've been doing this show in the morning called The House of Creativity, and I usually am the person that's responsible for music and getting clips for motivation. I work with a lot of creatives and business owners and people that are, doing their thing. And this happens on Clubhouse. It's like a whole nother wonderful culture over there, which is fun. And thank you so very much. Thank you so much, Kevin, for putting that in there. So this young man has developed into a certified life transition coach. And I was really impressed when he was showing me a clip from a short film that was shot here in Chicago. He's a Chicago native, living South now. And he is the author of the book Life's Twist, The Navigation for Life's Winding Roads. And also, he is currently, we're going to just hope and pray, and we were praying it's going to happen. The 2024, he has been selected. He will be selected as a panelist for the South by Southwest Film Festival. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to go ahead and introduce Mr. Eric Harrison. Sir, how are you this evening? Oh, no, I can't hear you. Okay, you're muted. You got to unmute yourself, sir. There you go.
There you go. Anyway, look, I had a nice introduction and everything and messed it all up. Anyway, I'm going to do it again. What up, what up, what up, what up? I finally made it. I'm here with Val The Voice. I can't believe it. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I have to say that I'm very excited that you're here, and we have been supporting Eric while in the House of Creativity on Clubhouse, but I wanted to bring him because I've been seeing him do these wonderful reconnect conversations and connecting with generations. We're going to talk legacy. I talked about my mom a little bit earlier, but I got a chance to read a little bit of this book that you put out. I think it was in 2019. Is that when it was published, or when did you put out Life Twist?
This version, the version that you read, was put out in 2019, but actually it originated in 2017.
Okay.
It looked very different. I had a whole lot of people who contributed to it, and then just, man, after a little bit of prayer, after a little bit of introspection, it was like, nah, you gotta put this out yourself, and you gotta go ahead and just be transparent. So you're right, 2019 is this version, but The original was in 2017.
Right. And then I believe right after you writing, you started a
Mm,
film project called Love and Legacy. Tell
yeah.
me about this.
Um. Wow. Basically, uh, I had been through a lot.
Mhm.
Probably the last 10 years of my life, I've seen so many different transitions. Moved to three different cities, um, divorce, uh, passing of my mother too, which I can definitely empathize with you on that.
Mhm.
Uh, empty nesting, kids growing up, grandchildren, uh, bankrupt, all kinds of things. And one of the things that happened was as I was moving to all these different places, I just wasn't around my family. I wasn't around my sons. My oldest son had a granddaughter, and I really wasn't around as much as I wanted to be. And my family was evolving, and I just wasn't there. And at the time, um, I was in Salt Lake City, Utah, of all places,
Mhm.
Salt Lake City. So I was very far away from everybody because my
Mhm.
family was either in Chicago, Houston, or down south somewhere. So I was way away. And as
Mhm.
I was sitting in Salt Lake City, oh, and my brother was in Iowa. And as I was sitting in Salt Lake City, I was like, man, we don't have anything then in our family, can stand on. No type of foundation, nothing that can tell our stories. And I've been blessed enough to sit with each and every one of the men in our family, those immediate men, and that spanned literally three generations.
Mhm.
And I just sat there and I started writing. I'm a guy, I always got a notebook and a pad. And whenever I start thinking and stuff starts coming to me, I start writing. And I started writing up the script for the short film Love and Legacy. One of my very, very dear friends, and he's also my marketing manager, um, Ace Eversley from 43 Degree Films. Shout out 43 Degree Films. Um, we just put it all together, and we found people who could film it. We figured it would be a good time to go during a book fair that I was going to in the hood on the street, and then we found the police right, and we just found a place where we could talk and we could really share with one another. Um, the drive, I drove from Salt Lake City to Chicago for that.
Wow.
And then on
Wow.
the way there, yeah, on the way there, I stopped in Iowa and picked up my brother. And then we kept going. And then also, you guys will get some backstory and some behind the scenes stuff. So when you go see it, you'll know what went into making this. My son, Michael, actually left Houston and drove from Houston to Chicago. So he didn't even fly. He
Wow.
like got off of work where I think he was working almost an overnight type gig, jumped in a ride and got there because this thing was that important. And it's something that now is like cemented into our family's foundation. You know what I mean? This is something that all the grandkids and all the kids can go back to and say, wow, that's how my dad looked, and that's what they were saying, and all this kind of stuff. And every time I go back and look at it, I shed a tear because it's always something else that comes out of it. So um, that's probably my greatest work ever. For
Yeah. And I have to say that tell me about this picture.
sure. Oh wow. Okay, Val always coming with these doggone surprises. Okay, I will not cry. Um, that is a picture of me with significantly more weight. That's my brother next to me. That's my sister Samiko. That's standing in front
Mhm.
of me, and then that's my dad. And that's actually during Thanksgiving in Chicago.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it was one of those Thanksgivings. It was actually cold. If anybody's from Chicago that's watching, the weather in the Chi is just really retarded. Like it could be like 67, and then all of a sudden it's like 32. So
Right.
that's why everybody was dressed like they was stressed. And that was Thanksgiving, and as you can see, it was a very happy time. It has significantly more weight then. I think that was almost before my heart attack, which I talked about in the book as well.
Yeah, and I have to say, the legacy of the Harrisons, I feel like, is well documented in this short film. And I think what's most, I want to say, telling about it is, if anything, you're speaking to all generations of your family,
Mhm.
and then I'm getting a chance to see down the street from me in Inglewood in Chicago, where I grew up not too far away from. It's like, this is exciting. And when I think about the time frame of this, was this just before the pandemic this was shot, or was this around the
It was
pandemic?
before. It was just before
Just
the
before.
pandemic.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because I had not moved to Houston yet.
Okay.
So it was just before the pandemic, and after I did that, and after I shot that, I had no thought process. I wasn't even thinking about moving to Houston. I had to move. What? Why? But then after that, and after I experienced my family to that level, um, we had to be in the same place. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
We don't have to see each other every day because I love them, but sometimes I don't like them. We can get into that later. But we just had to be in the same place. You know what I mean? I had to be able to reach out and touch them when I needed to. And me being way away in Salt Lake City, that was just too far. So now, my father, my brother, and my oldest son is here in Houston. The only two that aren't here right now, the only three are my sister and my two younger sons. They're away, but one of them's considering moving here, so we almost all here now. So you may see a sequel sometime soon.
Why was it important for you to talk with, number one, your father, your sons, and then to put this all in the short film, Love and Legacy?
Um, like I said, I think the narrative on Black men
Mm,
is just not good these days. We
mm,
always talk about, you know, angry Black women. We say that, you hear that all the time, and the
yeah.
neck snapping and this finger snapping. But there's a lot of Black men that are being misunderstood as well.
Mm,
A lot of times we're looked at these men, you heard all this stuff with the Kevin Samuels and all this high value man, and we're looking for this, and you can't do this, and I'm gonna be an alpha, and you're gonna be this, and I'm gonna be that we really don't get to express ourselves, our feelings. And we really don't get to express how we became who we became. And that was the major reason why I wanted to do Love and Legacy. Um, or the one of the main reasons, number one reason, was that I just wanted people to see men expressing themselves intelligently, um, heartfelt, showing emotions, talking about things that they went through, and not being seen as someone that's accusatory or mad or upset about something. And then the second reason was I just really wanted to record something for my family for generations to come so they can see the foundation of men in our family. So many Black men don't even know anything about men from their past and their family. Some Black men don't
right.
even know who their fathers are. So my main thing was like, hey, this will be good for my family, but also I hope that someone else can glean from it as well and learn some things and maybe possibly be able to do the same thing for their family so that they can change things up from what it used to be in the past.
Yeah. And I have to say that I saw this toward the end of the short film, and of course it made me think about my
Mm,
own mom.
mm.
Your
Woo.
Yeah, because I
Okay.
because the mom, my mom, and I can just speak on my mom. Uh, she migrated here from Arkansas, and wanted to make a better life for herself. And I think she came here in about 1956. And so it's part of that great migration of many African Americans. You know, they found their way back up, you know, to the north. And I when I was reading your book, I was almost imagining what I went through too. You mentioned that you didn't like the word latchkey, but you were the elder brother looking out for your younger brother, and how you was trying to, you know, you're looking out because your mom worked a lot, and you had to kind of be there for your younger brother. But if you were to say the one thing, because I miss my mom. Mom was a fusser, so one thing I miss about her is being able to pick up the phone and talk to her. Especially when I was in New York, we talked for like hours or however long. But what is that one thing that you miss about your mom, and what kind of legacy do you feel like she's left with you?
Um, Amazing questions. And sometimes I've thought that it's even a little complicated because when I was younger, um, and I realize this now that I'm older. You know, when you're older, you kind of see things through your parents' eyes, right? When you're a kid, you see stuff totally different. And when I was younger, I at times I really didn't understand why I had to have all that responsibility on me. Like you know, some people take that as, yeah, I was responsible and I did all this for my family and all of that. But real talk, a lot of times I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to be a kid. I wanted
Yeah.
to go outside and run and, you know, and play and stuff like that. So two things happened. Number one, I was away from everybody. And then number two, I grew like crazy because I'm 6'6". So come on, Val, you from Chicago. So what's the biggest thing that they talk about for kids, big dudes? That, and at the time I wasn't coordinated because I wasn't outside playing no sports. I wasn't doing anything.
Mhm.
First thing they said, man, you goofy. And I don't know about nowhere else in this country, but if you call somebody that, that's like fighting words. Like we going at it, especially a tall dude. So, you know, I was going through that. But as I got older, right, I started hearing what my brother said about how I raised him, and at times I kind of became his father.
Mm.
And I never really understood that until he said that sincerely. And then I started seeing the significance of what I was doing. And then uh, the relationship with my mother was strained because when I was 17, I was like, I'm out of here, I'm gone. And I filled out my own FAFSA and signed her name. I was like, I'm out. I'm gone. I
Wow.
can't do this no more because I done all this for everybody. And you know, at that time she had stopped kind of working so much and kind of being and somebody picked me up in a van and I was off to junior college. Off to junior
Wow.
college. And I just remember that time it was tenuous. And me and my mom was at odds, you know what I'm saying? Because I just wanted to be free. But then as time went on, and she left Chicago, moved to Mississippi to take care of my grandmother. So it was a lot of time that we really missed each other and didn't see each other. But as she got older, and even when she, you know, she had cancer, pancreatic cancer, and she stayed at my home, uh,
Mhm.
you know, in the latter years and passed away there as well. That was probably the richest time of my life because then I
Mm.
began to understand everything that I misunderstood for all those years. And she was so graceful, Val. She was so graceful. I mean, I was a mess. I was snapping and going off on the kids, and I was married at the time, and stuff was crazy. And she would call me to the back, and I'm like, oh, here we go, back to back in the day again. She finna snap on me, and she would just sit there and just say, sit down with me, Eric, and reach out her hand and grab my hand and say, you doing too much.
Wow.
And then she started talking about how she was living back then and how she acted that same way towards me where it was making me mad, stopping me from doing that. So when you talk about the legacy my mom gave me, that was the legacy she gave me. And then from that point forward, I've misstepped, I've made mistakes, but that right there nailed home a lesson for me that don't get so caught up in thinking of all this stuff you got to do for your family so y'all can make it and all this. And put the right things into your family and love on your family, and then have the faith in knowing that God got you and that you're going to get the provision for your family, so that then you can build something that's strong and not something that's weak. So that's what I got from it.
Yeah. Legacy is important, especially in families. And like I said, I myself and others, we were impressed when we saw this short film. And one thing that I want to talk about, and I see the coaches here, is legacy in hip hop music. I'm a big music person. One thing that I saw and I read in your book, Life Twist, you talked about music. There's like a little section on music. And I'll quote this from you. You said, music is like a healing balm that soothes the bruises life inflicts on my soul. And with music, my soul can conquer all that challenges me. And that's what kind of stood out to me from that part of your book. And I'm going to use that as a wonderful segue to go and introduce our coach. It's Coach Tony. Let's bring him on.
Hey, Val The Voice.
What up? What up?
Hey, I don't know if Val told you, Southside Chicago too, baby.
Bruh, I could tell. Like I did my research. You think I ain't do my research? Look at how he leaning in the chair, y'all.
You already know. You know
that brother. Look, he leaning like I'm leaning. Like, we ain't sitting like this high.
Right. Val like that Inglewood, the triple dubs. I tell you what, man. Are you sure that you and I ain't relatives, man?
Bro, we might be, man, because everybody related in Chicago. If your folks came from the SIP, Mississippi, for those of you that don't know.
Exactly.
For those of you that came from the SIP, man, if you got some folks from the SIP, we probably do got some family somewhere.
I still got them right now, and I got them right next door in Alabama.
Oh, dude. Well, we got to talk then. We're going to have to chop it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's nuts, man, because, sitting there listening to you and Val talk and reading information, especially on the life coach, I thought at some point a little bit of you was talking to me, because I'm kind of like, you don't know mom man either. Me and mom's was like, mud and jelly. We like peanut butter and jelly, you know what I'm saying? Crackers and and back in the day, some of that South meat, as they say down south.
Ooh,
but
hog head South.
Hey, hard head. Hey, you don't know you better have somebody, right?
Wow.
But I'm sitting there listening to you and everything, and it reminds me of one of my favorite rappers. Also came through the city of Chicago at the time that I was coming out, and we would get together. Sometimes I was a big DJ, so I love the music quote that Val was talking about. But if you haven't heard this record by Common called Misunderstood, it is for those that don't know. He breaks down a lot of scenarios, a lot of synopsis of life and how life can throw curveballs at you and certain things. And what you think that you're listening to is not in what he's talking about. You basically misunderstood. And is the question I had sitting there listening is that as a life coach and ups and downs and situations that you had to with your brothers and raising your family, because you 6'6" in the shop, baby. I play basketball. You ain't hooping. I'm gonna talk about you too. You already know that.
Dude, you know what I meant when you said goofy too. Because if you call somebody goofy, you better be ready to throw hands.
Throw them hands up. But what kind of, looking at that and looking at these young guys and information, like you said, your brother was able to give you about, you're looking at it as you were raising them, because that's what mom put in you. But he looking at you as a brother/father figure. How did that kind of change the way you looked at life? Once you got a chance to get out the empty nest and get out on your own, how did that help you kind of start your way in life and do the things you're doing now?
Man, that's a tremendous question, bro. Tremendous question. That's how I know you from Inglewood, because only people from Inglewood even would even ask the question.
Hey, I'm from the Wild Hunters. Val from England from the Wild Wild. I'm from the Wild Wild,
Chatham.
baby.
I'm
I'm
Chatham.
from the Wild. Hey, I'm Morgan Park all day, every day. Morgan Park, Wild Hunters, baby.
Oh, dude, I went to Lindblom, so 74th and Lafayette. Anyway, we'll get on that later.
So, you know a couple people out there. We gotta talk.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, man, let me tell you something. That's an amazing question, because I had to evolve, man. Like, because and I think I speak to a lot of people in this. If you grew up as that leader, or as that person that had to give care to people in your family, and you was looked upon as that responsible one, I call it the person with the key.
Right.
Like the one that's got the key to the crib. Like ain't nobody else got the key to the crib. And you got that key like safety pin to the inside of your coat so that you won't lose it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and you talking about back in the day.
You know.
And you talking about back in the day when the house was left open, we had to lock the house all the time. So you got the key, you were really real.
Bruh, you know what I'm saying? But when I got on my own, man, see what happened was my motives were still caught up into, and my mindset was still caught up in, yeah, I'm leaving the nest, but I still got to come back to the nest and bring food.
Right.
So it was very hard for me to start on my own, because I could start and I could make stuff and I could get money and things and resources, but I always felt like I had to come back and give a portion of those resources to all the people that I left back home.
Right.
So I always had that rolling in my mind. Now, people say, oh, that's cool, and that just makes you great. No, actually it didn't, because what it did is that it gave me a mindset of, number one, thinking I knew what everybody else needed. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm out here getting it. I'm going to come back and give them what I think they need.
Right.
Wrong answer, right?
Wow.
And then the second thing is that literally I became a person that really didn't listen to nobody else, because I'm like, man, I'm out here humping, I'm out here getting it, I'm struggling, I'm scrappling, and I'm bringing you this back. You need to respect me because I'm bringing this back.
Right.
So I was on some crazy stuff. Then what happened was I started diving into personal development, man. I started because back then, man, we really wasn't on YouTube like that. We wasn't even on social media like that. So I had to read. Yeah, bro, I had to read. And as I began to read certain books, and I mean, even though people say, oh man, these people white, they don't know nothing about the hood, but then they knew something about psychology. So Tony Robbins and you know what I'm saying? And even all those people, they started sewing into me. And what happened was, man, I started seeing the error of my ways. And I started seeing that instead of me bringing the family closer together by what I was calling myself giving, I was pulling them apart. And they actually didn't even want to see me no more. They was like, stay where you at.
Now, is that the great Harold Washington?
Come on, bro.
Come on, man. They if y'all don't know, y'all better recognize. If you don't do your homework, you better start researching, right?
Yeah.
Harold Washington. Oh my goodness. I tell you what, as a basketball player, Southside kid, making the way the same thing. We moved into the city, man. We was over east. As a lot of people I know who not from the city think they know Chicago. We don't have east side. It's over east. But anyway.
You're going to be in the lake if you go east.
Exactly. I done told him 100 times. Hey, you better hit Hyde Park. After that, you better turn on the drive. But listen, it was funny because sitting in the opportunity, and I wish I'd have had someone, as you say, a life coach, someone that could help direct those directions back in the day, because we all thought we knew more than we did, and the good thing about old Chicago was, we had a lot of different backgrounds. I mean, every ethnicity you can think about, in old Chicago was there. And to see a brother like yourself go through the things you did and be in a position to get out and still be able to reach back, man, all I want to do is applaud you, man. That's awesome.
Man, I appreciate that. I really do.
And Eric,
Yeah.
And
Go
Eric,
ahead. Go
this
ahead,
is
pal.
this is Coach with his kids, which I've got a chance to see Coach probably for the first time in some years in person.
Yes.
But it was really good for the legacy that Coach wanted to share with his kids was like, this is where I grew up, and this is where I went to high school, and we were out by Morgan Park High School. So I love those two pictures together because he
Hey,
wanted
bro,
to
you
just
can't deny them
that
kids.
legacy.
If you try to deny them kids, the judge gonna throw you under the jail. They look
Hey,
just man.
he was,
Man.
it was so bad. I was walking through the airport at one point with him, and the lady at the airport stopped me and said, "Well, sir, if you ever go to court, you're gonna pay for both."
Bruh, you have a beautiful family, bro. They're
I
amazing.
appreciate that.
Mhm.
Now that I don't know if Val told you, and I know you already know because being a scholar that you are, baby, we on 50 years of hip hop. Of course, we old Chicago guys, so I wish it was 50 years of house music, but we on 50 of hip hop. And the question I got to ask you, because last week we talked a little bit about artists that wanted to be athletes, athletes that want to be artists. So Kevin Springer, as you got the board rolling tonight, I know I saw my man Wise out there and all that. What the new question this week we want to talk about, we want to focus on is how hip hop formed and translated, sports in terms of fashion and groups and advertising. Because what we're looking at is a lot of people don't realize, but when you used to go to a lot of sports venues, whether it's football, hockey, baseball, basketball, whatever it was, they played pop music and rock music. Now it's all hip hop music.
It
So the
is.
question tonight on the table, and I got to ask you, Eric, as well. I need to know your hip hop groups that were famous, but they had a short run. People forgot about it. And I'll give you my example. The number one group, and people may or may not know this, and I don't even know if you know this, but the number one rap group of all time in terms of revenue and money was none other than the Beastie Boys. And a lot of people may or may not know that, but the Beastie Boys was number one, and they had one of the longest runs as a rap group until King Ed Rock passed away a few years ago. Of course, they're down to two. But the Beastie Boys, and then none other than DMC. So to date myself, I know you remember, Eric, when you got out the city, remember Poplar Creek?
For sure.
So I went to see the Fresh Fest at Poplar Creek. We opened up with the Beastie Boys came on first, with LL Cool J, followed by Public Enemy, and they closed the show out with Run DMC. Come on now. That was so. But so I just need to know, as you were getting in to the music scene, and you may have been in the jazz and some house and some other thing, but as hip hop hit the scene, what rap group back in the day impressed you the most?
Before I answer that question, I just have one thing to say. Brass Monkey. That's Monkey Junkie. Brass Monkey.
Yeah. Mine was more
play with me, bro.
Don't play with me.
What's happening?
Hey, don't forget Paul Revere, if that's the case there.
Oh, bro, I started drinking Brass Monkey because of them.
I love that Brass Monkey, right? That Brass Monkey was that funky monkey. Hey, you better know, you took me back on 111th Street, man.
Yeah, man. Listen, man, hip hop. What was so dope about hip hop to me is, see, when I told that story earlier about going to junior college, when I went to junior college, I was there. I went to a dope junior college with people from all over. I had some dudes from the D, shout out Lakeisha. I had some dudes from DC. You know what I'm saying? I had dudes from everywhere. So now it's this plethora of cultures, and everybody was bringing their music. And man, I'm gonna tell you, the dudes that used to get me, man, was like P Rock and CL Smooth, bro.
Oh, I knew you were gonna say that.
They, bro, like
I reminisce.
Bro, and people only know that song, but see, people like I study the game. One of my boys is on right now, Gerald Ryan, my man G Money. He on right now. Me and him be sending each other stuff, bro. Pete Rock and CL, bro, they touch so much like music, at that time.
Yeah.
They was
Yeah,
like
they
did.
doing stuff on the side for people and just dropping beats and dude, like go back and get some of Pete Rock's like mixtapes.
Yeah, Pete Rock. Yeah, Pete Rock's mixtape. Yeah, he DJ. He slashed something up, and I'm gonna throw one right there with you, with Pete Rock and CL at the same time. And I love them if they didn't have an internal explosion, and that was none other than EPMD.
Oh man.
Hey, so I got Val last week, Eric. I told her, so what you saying? She thought I was saying something. That's the name of the cut.
Yeah, bruh. And then when you talk about like other dudes that was cold but really didn't like have longevity, let's go with a Special Ed. Let's go with the Kwame's. Let's go. And then you talk about fashion, Kwame. Look, y'all, let's just
with
be
the polka
real.
dots. You better give it the polka dots.
With the Gumbies.
With the Gumby, with the polka dots. You better come on.
The polka dot shirts and the Zodiac shoes.
Exactly.
Now the thick sole Zodiac shoes, bro. So man, like you. So when you talk about this, bro, like hip hop has, and it still does now, man. It's like music invokes so many emotions. Val talked about it earlier, bro. It's like it's that thing. Whereas if I need to get something out, I could be rah, or it'll be give you something to just think about, bro. So man, y'all taking me everywhere in this conversation.
As Val mentioned something in last week's conversation, which had to do a little some research, and she talked a little bit about the Fugees and the Lauryn Hill. And people don't remember. You got Fergie and you got will.i.am connected to her. And Val, I know you're talking about the misunderstanding of Lauryn Hill, but people don't remember that Lauryn Hill also had a cut called X Factor. That was ridiculous.
And that's all from the album. She was one of the first to win Album of the Year as well as Song of the Year. She won the album Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Won about, I want to say, 5 Grammys, which was unheard of for urban artists.
Yes.
And so her music translated because she had this very unique skill who people forget that she was booed at the Apollo back in the late 80s. People forget that she was booed. And so somehow, some magical way, she was able to hook up with the Fugees. And so they had the very first single, "Oh, Mona Lisa, we're gonna get a Friday and you're busy. Get a day, And I used to love that song, but and she would go go from singing to rapping, and then of course Ready or Not. So it was all preparation for her own album. Yeah, that was hot.
Ready or Not, you can put Ready or Not on right now in a club today, older club, and they're going to the floor. Yeah.
Hey, but remember, look, let me drop something else on you, and both of y'all gonna smile on this one. Y'all talk about Lauryn Hill, one of the best kept, like straight up most popular albums, and maybe one of the greatest albums ever was that MTV Unplugged joint she did.
Oh,
y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know that one right there.
Hey, Fab Five Freddy.
My young son still
and my boy Fab Five Freddy told me everybody's style, right?
Bruh.
And why is it saying that how much that he loved the X Factor from Lauryn Hill? Because she was going through it with that song. So that's how that goes.
And Wise this joint dropped some Wise. I appreciate that on the Houdini. People forget at Houdini, early Houdini, Friends, that album there, 5 minutes. Hey, tell them, Eric, 5 minutes of funk was a cut.
Yeah. But you know what I like? It's nighttime. We got all grown people in here.
Oh, yeah, we got that freaks come out at night.
Freaks come out at night.
Boy, what do you say? They come in all shapes and sizes, man. I'm telling you. Man. The funny part about it is that, when you listen to this, and as I got an opportunity to dig into this with the hip hop and how it changed the sports world, the one group, and Val mentioned something this last week. We talked a little bit about how East Coast dominated, obviously, because they launched everything with Grandmaster Flash, and Africa Bambaataa, and went on down to the groups that they had And then, of course, here come the West Coast, and then Chicago gets into it a little late, obviously because we dominate with house music. But the group that I thought out of Chicago early on that was going to have a long career until they split only because Twister was good is my boys from Do or Die, called CADILLAC Blowing. Woo, come on. Do you want to run in the backseat of that caddy? Chop it up with Do or Die. Come on now. Hey, bruh, that was ridiculous. And I thought Johnny P and them was going to have a long ride until Twister started throwing them 50 characters out, right, Val? He won like the Ripley's, believe it or not, send alphabet to fashion history, you know?
Right.
But Eric, wow. here's the real question. Because now who knew that hip hop was gonna last not 1, not 2, but 5 decades? Like that's major. Just think about that. Just let that marinate for a good second. It's 1973. And they
still call it a baby. They tell me they're still growing. That's what's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. So I just got here, 1973. But how can the legacy of hip hop continue and be, I want to call it, a force of positivity as it started out to be?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
That's a magnificent question, and that kind of fits in with the presentation I'm doing at South by Southwest. But this, I kind of thought about this before I got on. So, you know, we now hip hop has grown so much that now it's got its own genres within the genre, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got, you know, the mumble rap, and you know, you got this and that and all of that. But then you got the Kendrick Lamars.
Yeah.
You got the J. Cole's.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So bruh, and Val, think about it. Those two plus many more that I'm not mentioning are like a hybrid of all of hip hop. Because they can flip, because Kendrick could flip West Coast, East Coast. You see what I'm saying? And so could like J. Cole. I'm just naming two.
Sure.
There's so many out there that now can span. So when you talk about the legacy of hip hop, I think it's in good hands because there's always somebody that's dropping, like D Smoke, guys like D, like they. I mean, it's some dudes out there that's real, but we can't focus on. Oh man, that sounds crazy. Like it's still some people that's dropping some stuff that's definitely going to be carried on into the next generation. So. Man, we sitting good. And plus, like my sons, all three, almost 30, man, we kick it. Like they could come in my house right now and put certain stuff on and I'm rocking with them. I ain't like turn that off. No.
Yeah, that's like my son. My son and his homeboys, they all play AAU basketball with me. See, they just gave me much love on my birthday 2 weeks ago. And they like, hey, coach, when you get back, we gonna kick it. And to expand on that, that's funny because Val will tell you, last week's show, I said Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole.
You did.
Those two artists, because the Kendrick Lamar gets an opportunity to expand what Dr. Dre, I think, was trying to do with NWA. And J. Cole is a fusion, to me, of a Jay-Z and a Nas put together.
Yes,
and he's moving it to the next level. I think the other piece to that, as Val just asked, to me, a diehard Chicago guy fan all across the board, except the Cubs. I like the Cubs, but I'm straight Southside White Sox all day.
Come on, bruh. I love you already, man. I'm getting. Look, let me book my plane ticket right now. We gonna hang out this weekend.
Hey, we gonna do it. Hey,
come on, bro.
Hey, but I know P mentioned last week a little bit about the new artists are garbage. So I'm glad, what you said. They're not artists. You got to learn what they're talking about because they called us garbage back in the 80s. So
they did.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I remember walking in the house, listening to rap. My old man was like, man, take that and throw that in the garbage can because he didn't understand. So my son, all of them, they walking with these new artists, and I'm telling you, I don't like what the drill music stands for, but I told everybody last week, I love Lil Durk. I'm a Chicago guy.
Bro. Yeah.
I just wish that Durk would understand the power that he got in the third largest city in the country, and that I think that he would be a great spokesperson to calming the violence down in Chicago. And I think when those young kids see that, I truly, 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 truly think that it would translate to your Baltimores and your DCs and your LA. It hurts my heart to watch college students this weekend at Howard University move in the dormitories, and they were jumped on and beaten and stabbed, stuff like that. We do enough hurt amongst one another. And the difference between today's rap is just that, it's rap. Back in the day, we called it hip hop because we understood the culture, and people called it, like, say, as Ice Cube them talked about when they came out, reality rap, because they were just laughing and joking. It wasn't until later on, then people started to talk about, Eric, I don't like your neighborhood. I don't like Inglewood. I don't go down 63rd. I ain't coming down on the low end. Now you want to make a problem of it because that was the new rapper, because the old rappers didn't do that. And I think if we can get back to that, because obviously this genre, like you said, you gotta, you talk country music. It's just country music, right? You talk rock and roll, it's rock and roll. But when you go to rap, like you said, it's drill music, laid back music, it's jazz hip hop, it's all kind of hip hop, and you can be all over. And when you go to these football and basketball games and you see this music now, a lot of the people that are quote unquote your country lovers and quote unquote your rock and roll, they're all listening to hip hop.
Yeah. Hey man, before I gotta say this before we go. Bro, I live in Houston. You think I'm not gonna talk about some of them dudes in the dirty South?
Hey man, ghetto boy,
Let's talk about Dungeon Family for a minute.
Dungeon Family.
Okay.
MJG.
Goody Mob. Oh my God.
Hey,
bro.
and you, hey,
bro, don't play with me now. And then let's not talk about Bun B, UGK.
Hey, you don't talk about UGK. You better talk about UGK. You better talk about UGK.
Bro, like we gotta mention them because we just talking about East and West, but this South,
the South,
the South came up. I feel like the South really put a stamp on things, probably in the mid '90s.
And what did I say last week, Val? Did I not say that last week? I said that last week. Once Willie D, Scarface, and Bushwick Bill, once that you drop, hey, tell me right here, boom, 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 boom. And once you drop that, and for those that don't know, hey man, Halloween came on the weekend. Me and Ghetto Boys trick or treated, right?
Hey, like some of the South got some anthems, bro. Like the South, see, like everybody else got their style, and like you can rap to them, but the South got anthems.
And they got
anthems. You just walk in and everybody will be hitting that doggone chorus, and it's like, oh yeah, you know what I'm saying?
And you know what my number one anthem from the South is?
What?
I'm gonna tell you right now. You put the track on night, it's gonna explode. T.I. and 24s.
Man, quit playing.
You put them 24 cars and clothes.
Man, bro.
I'm gonna be going with "Ain't Nobody Dope as Me." I'm just so fresh and clean.
Man, so fresh, so clean. Man.
Yeah.
So,
but guys, remember, the Dungeon Family story is they were supposed to come out with a documentary, y'all.
Yes, they were.
You know why they call themselves Dungeon Family? Because they stayed in somebody's basement. All of them. Correct. Yep. Like 17 dudes, and they had their studio in the basement, and they worked their jobs or whatever, and then they always go home and get up in that basement and put out this music, man. Like, look at what CeeLo Green then became.
Correct. Yeah. And the funny part about that, what you just mentioned about the Dungeon Family, they laughed because they were saying they were on the backs of the Wu. You know what I mean? The Wu had 36 in the chamber. Remember? So the Wu had 36 in the chamber, and when you listen to the Wu, there was no hooks. Everybody spit. So when the Dungeon came in, they were the same thing. And then they start breaking off, like you say, they started doing things. Because I'm like, let's look. Hey, when Goody Mob dropped out in my windows, man, come on now.
Man.
Look who
Hey, bro, you know what I'm doing after this, right?
Nobody now.
The Dungeon family, according to Gerald, the Dungeon family was equivalent of the W.
Correct. And I'm with you, Gerald.
I agree, Gerald.
I totally 100% agree.
Hey, that's my boy from the Louis, man. That's my
brother
from Louis, Gerald.
Louis down here. Hey, I totally 100% agree. When the Dungeons dropped, man, they were the new version of the Woo, and it was great because, as you said, E, that was a great segue because things had done so much in the East, and then it went to the West. And once the Biggie and Tupac thing, unfortunately, took out two of our greatest ever in the game of hip hop, then things started to calm down. It went south. And when it went south, I definitely, I wish the Ghetto Boys would stay, but Scarface did his own thing. And then and I'm going to tell you something, if some of you guys don't know, and y'all want to hear how the whole story actually happened, I'm going to give you one tonight. Google UGK and a song called True Story.
Okay.
There you go, right? And he tell you about how everything happened from day one, including how he got locked up and then unfortunately got knocked off. But when the South hit it and T.I. took it to a whole different level, and then Outkast came, Atlanta had his own sound. Man, it just came out of nowhere.
And had its movie too, the ATL.
Yes, it did.
Remember the movie? Yeah. So that was cool. But can you name the hip hop solo artist who is the only solo artist, I believe? No, he's a solo artist that has won an Oscar for his music. He's from Chicago.
Talking about Common?
Of course.
Yeah, come on now.
If we didn't know that, man, you need to revoke our Chicago card. You need to just
correct. Matter of fact,
you need to take my Chicago card if I ain't know that.
Matter of fact, I'm cutting my microphone off. You know how hard that is now.
I was doing an event for a non-for-profit, and I got a chance to meet. I like to call him Lonnie because that's his born name.
Right.
But Common was really nice. I had a chance at the time. He was dating Angela. I can't think of her last name right now.
Not Yee.
Angela.
The activist.
Yeah. The
activist. Yes.
Rye. I'm sorry, Angela Rye.
Angela
my
Rye,
gosh.
yeah.
There it goes. And so he talked about how kind of bounced between Brooklyn and Chicago, but he still definitely has love for Chicago, and recently he's the one that supported our new mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson.
Okay.
And so I was just really impressed with, if you see how far hip hop has gone, it's gone very far in definitely attracting. And I feel like the legacy of hip hop can definitely continue.
Yes.
When we have trailblazers and people that are diversifying their talents across lanes and not necessarily just staying in the music, in hip hop, but they're also acting, they're also producing, they're also creating, I like to call it, jobs and work for folks. So one of the biggest employers right now on the Stars Network is Curtis 50 Cents Jackson.
He's doing his thing right now.
He's doing his thing.
He's doing his thing. He, as I mentioned last week, he's got his show recorded up to 24 months. So unfortunately, we're on a strike. But he's like, hey, I got 24 months. And the cool piece about it, he's got 4 different shows. So he really only have 90 days worth of stuff on 4 different shows. But by the time the strike is over, you won't skip a beat with anything that he's doing, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Right. Gerald says, don't forget about Ludacris.
Oh, yeah, but Luda won the group. The group.
And he's from the South too, right?
Yeah, he's from Atlanta. I remember when Luda came to Nashville with me. By the way, Eric, I'm in Nashville. So when Luda came to Nashville, I remember when Luda dropped off in 2001 with his first cut, I'm gonna lick you from your head to your toes, and drop that at Tennessee State University in the gym.
Wow.
Yeah, I was at that concert, and the next week it was on the radio. So But again, Gerald, I love it, but Luda ain't a group. We talking about those groups, like, for example, I'm going to throw one at you, Leaders of the New School. And a lot of people don't realize Busta Rhymes was with Leaders of the New, and the only reason why they folded was because Busta was spitting so hard, and him and Q-Tip became good friends. And when they did What's the Scenario on Midnight Marauders with Tribe Called Quest, the rest is history. Busta Rhymes wrote that.
Tribe, I'm sorry, but Tribe is definitely in my top 3.
Oh, yeah. But
my top 10, yeah.
Yeah, Tribe is always top 3. But I don't want to confuse this one, though, E. That if I had the top 3 in terms of group, these are just simply groups that we talking about that should have made it that they didn't have. Because we know Tribe was a beast. Tribe was a beast. But Leaders of the New School never got they just due because they got cut short only because Busta Rhymes was so good and Q-Tip them saw it, so they snatched him out.
Yeah, I'll just admit this to you guys. I had a big crush on Q-Tip. He could
right.
But as we
standing up.
Yeah, but as we wrap up, I feel like Gerald definitely has captured kind of the essence of what we were talking about as we wrap up our look back on hip hop and the legacy of it. Hip hop is now embedded into the world fabric, never to end. I just want to make sure that that what we're putting out is something that can be remembered and it won't be forgotten, because there's so many artists. There's so many artists that have released music between 73 and now. And I don't want things to get lost in the sauce, because there's so much good music. And of course, the good basis of a great song, of any good hip hop song, is always a sample. I had a show a little bit earlier, Coach Tony. I literally was just going, hey, let me grab this song. And I think I did. I went from Quiet Storm, from Smokey Robinson to Michael Jackson, I Can't Help It, to Break of Dawn by De La Soul, because these were some of these samples that were used that made up that particular hip hop track. But I want to say this is definitely the essence of hip hop. And I love how Gerald just kind of just wrapped that up. This hip hop is now embedded into the world fabric, and it's not going away.
It's not going away by far.
Yeah.
And you look at, even extend that, Val, real quick, and we talk about, speaking of fabrics, and we look how much hip hop, as you mentioned, the music and the entertainment and advertising. I know you guys remember during the time that Do the Right Thing was out, and the biggest athlete at that time with a shoe in terms of marketing was none other than our own Chicago Michael Jordan, when Morris Blackman said, what? Hey, yo, money, it must be the shoes, right? Right? And we know that also led to what? Public Enemy, which led to what? Do the Right Thing, then what led to what? School Days. So all three of, and those are all within a year to 2 years time period of each other. And it just goes to show you the fabric of just hip hop music and what it meant. Because you remember back in the day, walking around in Chicago with them starter jackets on? Come on, Val. Come on, you remember? You had them Bull jackets, them Dallas Cowboys, the Georgetown Hoya shoes and the jackets. Come on now.
Wow.
Oh, very much
play
so.
Too much, man. Like between you and Val today, with her with that show early and you right now, like, man, it's just too much.
What's your girl say? Back down memory lane.
Saying that Buster was her crush.
Oh, Buster, what it is right now. Buster, what it is right. Hey, what they say, we're going back down memory lane.
Oh,
hey, I've seen a photograph. Man, this is awesome, man.
Yeah, the other thing too, real quick, just off of what Gerald said, I just want to tell people, don't focus on the bad so much, because there's still some projects out there just off the chain. You know what I mean? Like, just bananas projects. Like even if you go to Kendrick's last one, the one where he's basically dedicating it to mental health.
Yeah, Val talked about that.
And he told it from his side, right? And then if you listen to what J. Cole is talking about, we going back to them again. Like, yo, he's just talking about like all the stuff he went through. He talked about the fights he had. He's even talking about what he's going through now. And then the brothers in the South talking about the same thing. Like, man, look, now we done got this bread. Now we got to watch out. So it's like they are our modern day storytellers. And remember back in the day when they talked about people that told folk stories and they would sit and everybody would sit around and everybody would watch this person tell stories. That's what hip hop is today. Yeah, exactly. They are our folk storytellers, and they're telling us about what's going on in the world today, man. And don't just dismiss people sometimes. Like, you know, I don't like that, man. That be crazy. Listen to it for a half a second, because you
listen to it for a half a second, because your boy Nipsey Hussle told you, right? And I add Nipsey with Kendrick Lamar. Nipsey was so deep. Oh my goodness, you know, just a couple of things he talking about, you know, especially that track he had called Double Up, you know, and you know, and Val, he mentioned something earlier about how do we continue hip hop in a good way. Here's my personal thought to close out. I think that if the young artists, these new kids of today that are making music, can understand what the Snoop Dogs and the Dre's, Cubes of the world who are still here, LL Cool J's 30, 40 years later did. And that was, they sampled music at our time when we were their age, right? They sampled the 70s and the 80s that we knew what they were sampling. And I see Puff Daddy is doing it again with a couple of his artists. But I think if some of these young artists could go back and sample some tracks that these guys knew from that, you know, maybe 90s and early 2000s, and kind of bring that back with a little twist to it, I think you'll see another genre of hip hop. Because right now, you know, it's the women time. Women are flooding hip hop, and I'm glad. And I think that if they can continue to do that, and while it's the women's time, I think if the young guys can go back in the lab right now while the women are having a good run and come back out in the next few months, man, you'll see a whole nother spectrum of hip hop start to evolve.
Yeah. Right. Hey, Val, one more thing. I gotta say this. So I was at this spot here in Houston. And it's a music spot. It's called The Flat. It's a dope spot. Like they play house. They got reggae night. Like, yeah, when you was here, that was a spot that you probably definitely need to like. And it's like a lounge type of spot with a little bitty dance floor. Dude came up. What's up, bro? Da, 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 da. Where you from? I said, I'm from Chicago, dude. Da, da, da. It was one of the DJs. That dude proceeded to go behind the turntables and rock Kanye for 1 hour straight. Oh. You see the look on my face? 1 hour. You can say that dude crazy. He talking crazy. Man, let me tell you something, bruh. 1 hour straight.
The first 2 albums of Kanye was rocking.
It was like, dude, I was like, so I don't know if y'all mentioned him yet, because whatever, but bruh, that dude.
College dropout.
But bruh, just go through the line. Yeah. Like, you could go through college dropout. Dude, he got stuff interwoven and stuff he didn't touch that other people done done. Yeah. And he was even going into stuff that he did with other people.
I told Val the story last week about how he dropped with the with Jeezy. Remember Val, I told you last week the story how he dropped and Jeezy had a track and you know he was going to do it and didn't want to. And he sold a track to Kanye. They went over the season and performed, and it was I wait till I get my money right. And Jeezy said, never again in my life will I ever give another track up because Ye almost ruined the concert for me.
Yeah, and I didn't realize he was trying to sell the Jesus Walks track. I saw that Netflix documentary. Yeah. And I'm glad he kept it. Because that's one of the songs that definitely rocks. Let me get some folks in the chat here. We got El Michelle saying Jay-Z lyrics are telling you more. He raps in truth and codes. I also see that Kevin Springer said, is there any Das Effect fans out there?
Oh yeah, I like Das Effect. Hey, Das Effect and Foots Nickens was together. If you put Das, you got to come with Foots Nickens. Well,
Look, they vibe was
I
like
ain't got
this.
nothing to lose. I'm the fool.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
see
You know.
Monique Lisa has joined us. How you doing, Queen? Thanks for being here. And of
Yeah.
course, Kevin has said that Kanye's graduation is one of my favorites as well, because I
Yes.
feel like at the time, uh, Kanye was very talented in using sampling and then kind of speeding up the song. He kind of Jamie Foxx had been chasing this solo career of music, and he ended up uniting him and Twister, and then you had that slow jam song, which I want to go from Luther to hearing that again. Are you gonna
Val.
be?
Hey,
Oh,
Val.
oh, 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 oh. She says she wants a Marvin Gaye.
Right, right, right. What was the Val? Eric, you may remember what was the theater on 79th Street off Stony?
The Regal.
Regal.
The Regal.
Regal. Yes.
I saw Jamie Foxx when he came out as an artist and on that first album, and he did 30 minutes of comedy and then went into his new album and he almost didn't make it. And I remember he first came out and that weekend and he made it only because Common was his special guest on the show. And Common said, hey man, give this guy a chance. Because Chicago, the Regal was kind of like being at the Apollo in New York, you know what I'm saying?
Definitely like that, bro. Like the Regal wasn't no joke, bro. Like
The Regal wasn't no joke.
Regal, like you had to bring heat up in the Regal, bro. Like
Yeah.
it was real.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah. So I definitely appreciate this conversation, and I'm so grateful, Eric, that you got a chance to stop in and talk. Like I said earlier, we got a chance to meet up and see each other in person. So I was just grateful. So guys, give it up for our guest for Talk on Tuesdays. Good gracious. It is
Make sure you get
Eric
my info.
Harris.
Yo, you already know, bro.
Nothing else.
Hey, I'm coming to the bill. You already know.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you, this is how you know I've been in your back though. I'm coming down to Kenwood.
Oh my gosh. Well, people really like this. People really like this. We have El Michelle saying, y'all gotta have to do a part 2. They are lit right now.
There you go. There you go. There you go. I like that, Michelle. There you go. That's what's happening. Hey, we're gonna, like I said, celebrating 50 of hip hop and tying it to sports is great. And I want to do this because, on watch, I told Val the other day, Eric, that watching, Gail and Nate and those guys in the morning on CBS, and I really appreciate how CBS has really been pouring their heart into representing hip hop. They have LL Cool J on there and a couple other guys. But all you need to do is hit the subscribe button and get up in this joint right here on Tuesday nights, and you will get some, as they say, some Spanglish and some English and some history right up in here.
For sure.
This like gumbo soup, ain't it, Val? Just throw everything in there. Just throw it out. I don't know what's in gumbo, but it tastes good. Just throw it in there.
If you guys have enjoyed this conversation, go ahead and hit the like button and go ahead and please subscribe to the Interludes podcasting channel. We thank you so very much for being here, Eric. And of course, Coach, we really appreciate you. I'm coming back with a wrap up, one of our shows that we did on Clubhouse for our podcast on tomorrow. And then I'll be officially going on a little bit of a hiatus with our audio podcast, but I'm always excited. I want to make sure that I promote and let you guys know that if you would like to see the short film in its entirety, it is Love and Legacy. It's Eric Harrison, and we'll be hearing about him going and being a panelist at the Southwest by Southwest in 2024. I'm already claiming it for you, Eric. It's going to be fun. But let me see if you could put that up for me, Mr. Springer. The name of his website, I believe it's Express. What's your website name again?
It's expressyourperspective.com, and it gives you connection to everything. And then every platform is Express Your Perspective. So it's Instagram. If you look on YouTube, it's Express Your Perspective. And then my name and all my stuff will come up. And, I just really appreciate the support. You guys have supported me. And then I see Monique's in the room. This would not have been possible without the House of Creativity. So I got to show love to the House of Creativity as well, because, you know, us linking, having these conversations, laughing, joking, is all a result of something that was created by Delano Johnson and his lovely wife, Monique. So thank y'all. I appreciate it. And this is just the fruit of you guys' magnificent labor. So I appreciate you. And thank you for having me. And Tony, you know we connecting. Yeah.
Already off the top. You know what I'm saying? You know, and I just want to appreciate you, man. And Val always tell me about the guest I bring on, and I just want to tell her, you know, I got to go back to the, as they say, back to the lab, like Eric B said, right? Rakim, back to the lab. And with I got to go back and start right, because Val went up me on these guests she'd had last few weeks, man. Y'all been knocking out the ballpark, man, and I'm loving it. It's wonderful to not only get good guests, but to get good guests who also got great input on our topics, man, and that is awesome. And I thought tonight, man, but again, that's what you get when you get three people from the South Side. You know what I'm saying? You're going to get a good part of gumbo, period.
Oh, my gosh. Guys, join us next week for Talk on Tuesday. On behalf of myself and Coach Tony, we want to thank Eric Harrison for being here. And we'll be back next week for a whole new situation, talking sports. And the Pull-Up Podcast is coming. So stay tuned.
You got to get up on that, E.
We'll be back. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Man.
Wow.
Home run. That'll be a curveball.